everyone. My name's Arno. I am the education coordinator at the BGCL Youth Center, and I'm here with Mark. Mark is, Mark has worked in the airline industry for quite a while now, both as a flight attendant and as a customer service agent. Mark, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Sure. So my name is Mark. I've worked for two airlines now over the past 5, 6, 7 years. My first foray into working in the airline industry was I was a flight attendant for EasyJet. My home base was Lisbon, so that was always fun living in the sunshine. And then when I came back to Canada, I somehow managed to get myself a position in Air Canada, and I've been there since May of 2018.
Awesome. It sounds like you've had quite a bit of experience with the airline industry. How and why did you originally get into this career?
Well, it really started from when I was a kid. When I lived in Calgary, my dad and I like used to go to the airport like when I was really small, and we watch the airplanes come in and out. And anytime we travel somewhere, if there was like a museum with anything to do with aviation, like we were there, like front of the line. And then it just felt really natural, like through school and things like that. I always like wanted to find a way to get into that industry, but it was difficult, like because you really have to set yourself like, okay, well, I'm going to get a degree behind it. And any of the schools that I went to didn't offer any travel and tourism degrees or any kind of classes on that. So when I finally left school, I just thought, well, I'll send an application out online on EasyJet's website, and not very long later, I got a call back to go do the series of interviews.
Cool. So you didn't really study in school to become a flight attendant. You just sort of applied, and based on those interviews, you got into that role.
Absolutely.
That's really neat. What does the day-to-day look like in a career like being a flight attendant or even as a customer service agent for Air Canada?
So for a flight attendant, your day, especially for me, because I was very junior, days are very early. Usually you get up around like 4:30. You have to live within a certain radius of your airport. You're there at like 5:30 in the crew room. You meet your crew for the day. And then once you get familiarized with what your schedule is going to be for that day, you head out to your gate, you get on board the aircraft, you start with your safety checks, which are always like the number one thing to do. And then you kind of check the other things that are around, like, oh, is the drinks in there? Is the food been loaded? And then there is a very big sense of working together. You always, at least when I was with EasyJet, it was always about having the morning huddle with the crew. So in case you hadn't really met each other, even though you'd already done it in the crew room, it's hard to do it when there's a million other crews around you. So you're in a very personal setting, and you become very, uh, familiarized and more friendly with everyone that you're working with. Um, and then usually during my day, I would do 5 or 6 turns, which is 5 or 6 flights. And usually by the end of the day, it would be later in the evening, 8 o'clock or so. And if you weren't home, like at your home base, you would be sent to the hotels for the night.
Wow, that's quite the long day. I don't know if I could do that.
And
And you're saying 5 to 6 flights. Are those normally shorter flights then?
it totally depends on where you're based. Some bases have not quite as long routes. Some have a lot shorter routes. For example, like if I was doing a typical turn out of Lisbon, I was usually on the very early morning flight from Lisbon to Gatwick in London. And then quite often they would put me on flights to either Tel Aviv or Amman in Jordan, which were our long flights. And if that was the day that I was on, it would only be those two flights during the day, because that Amman Tel Aviv flight is around 5.5 hours, and by the end of that, you've ran out of crew time, and it's not safe to continue flying anymore after that.
Crew time being the amount of time that you were flying on the plane and working, right?
Exactly. There's a certain amount of allotted hours that your doors closed in the air actually working, and that's mandated by government and safety protocols. So if it's to go over that, at any point the flight could divert and its wheels down. Doesn't matter where you are, because at that point it's not safe to continue the operation.
Cool. And then for your work at Air Canada, did you find that it was a natural transition from EasyJet to your work at Air Canada?
Absolutely, it was. Even though I'm no longer in the air, a lot of the work still revolves around looking after the customer, and I mean it's an airline. And my day to day does differ in terms of my tasks, but overall I still have the same feelings and sensations throughout the day as I did when I was in the air, as I do with my feet on the ground.
Totally. And now you get more of a home base, I'm assuming, than as a flight attendant.
Exactly. No more wondering what city I'm in, or what time it is, or what time zone I'm even in. I get up, go to work, get in my car, and it's never an easy day, but it's just, I know where I am.
So we talked a little bit about the schooling. Did you find that the training was intense when you were getting into the career of being a flight attendant?
Absolutely. The training is very intensive. There is a lot of theory and there is a lot of practical. Um, some of the theory it is really, you have to remember everything. Um, it comes from everything from there's well, the number one thing is safety. So you need to remember how many emergency exits there are, how to operate the exits, where the oxygen bottles are, your announcements in the event of an emergency or to do with safety. And then there's the service aspect of it, like, what standards is the airline holding you to perform in the air? Because obviously, well, even though I worked for a budget airline, a low cost airline, there's still always a standard of service that is expected, regardless of what you're performing in your day to day.
Totally. Thank you. That's I didn't realize the training was so intensive. That's awesome. What are some of the challenges that are faced in this career?
Certainly, long hours can be a very big, tough challenge. Maybe not so much a challenge. Maybe it's more of it can be a big change for people. There's often because you work with so many different people, sometimes you are not going to get along with everyone that you work with, and it's about overcoming certain misunderstandings or aspects, or just trying to work on a sense of common ground. And then obviously safety is that's always the number one priority that should be running through your head, and that's always something it has to it's hammered into you, and it does get tiring because you just need to be aware of everything that's going on at every moment, every phase during flight, because it might be something with the aircraft, it might be something with the crew, or it might even be something to do with passengers on board, because that's happened before.
Wow. Thank you. Do you have any advice or tips for youth who are interested in this career?
Um, Stay hungry. You have to be very hungry for success. You really do have to be prepared to work very hard. I do recommend starting young, because you have a lot more energy. You're a lot more flexible to change. You don't have as many things in your life tying you down. But overall, is just the number one tip I can give is enjoy it. It is such a fulfilling and exciting career to get into that there's never a dull moment. There's moments where you just want to scream in the bathroom, but overall, you just feel very fulfilled and happy at the end of the day.
Awesome. Do you have anything else you'd like to sort of talk about before we close this interview off? I feel like we've talked a lot about a lot of the different aspects, but if there's anything that you feel we've missed, I'd be happy to hear it.
I would say in terms of applying, it does help to have someone that you know. that does work for an airline because they can help fight your corner. But overall, if there's if you hear anything about any job fairs or career fairs or airlines coming to town trying to recruit, take advantage, or just check online. Even if the airlines aren't applying, you can still put in an application and they can review it for the times that they are hiring. So you may forget it, which is what I did. You may forget about it 6 months down the road, and then all of a sudden they call you and they want to set up an interview.
So if you are interested in this career, being persistent and making sure that you are really following it and really pushing to get it, then is what I'm understanding.
Exactly. Persistence is key.
Awesome. Thank you. Uh, Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this, and I'm sure the youth do as well.
Oh,
As a reminder to our youth, this career fair will be going on for the whole week. And if you have any questions for Mark, you can submit them on our website, and we'd be happy to send Mark the questions. Or if there are a lot of questions for Mark, then we can actually maybe book a Zoom session so that you can ask him directly. Thank you so much, and I will see you later in the week.
thank you so much.
Thank you.